In this video, we will show you how to design the warehouse of your application in Triggre. The warehouse is where all the data of your application gets stored and is also called a database. First, click Design and then click Data. You now see a schematic overview of the data that your application can contain. This is not the data itself, but a description of what kind of data can be stored. For example, the application can contain users, which we can see because there is a data item called user. When we click the item, we see the properties a user has. You can think of this as a table. For every user, there is a row in the table, and for each row, we store the name and email address of that user. You also see lines between data items, such as between user and task. This means that there is a relation between these two data items. In this case, a user can have a list of tasks, and vice versa. A task can have an assigned user. To add a data item, we simply click the Add button in the lower right corner. You can now enter the name of your data item. We advise you to always use singular form, such as task, user, or project. The new data item has now been added and we can drag it to where we think is handy. Now we can easily add properties to the project data item. We click the data item to open it. Using the plus, we can easily add a property. First, we choose the type of property, for example, text. Then, we are shown all the options that are available for texts. In this case, we choose any text. Now, we enter the name of the property. In this case, we use description, so every task will be able to have a descriptive text. You can add other properties in the same way. Triggre guides you through the process of adding a property step by step, by simply asking you easy questions. It is also possible to add a property to a data item that refers to another data item. Imagine, for example, a manager that belongs to a project. In the data item project, we want to add the property manager that leads to the correct user. And in user, we want a list of projects. We do this by choosing a reference. Then we choose which data item we want to refer. In this case, user. We give the property the name manager. Now we see the most important step for adding a reference. We get asked how project and user relate to each other. In the case of a project, we want every project to have a maximum of one manager. Vice versa, it can be the case that a manager has multiple projects. Triggre automatically also creates a property for user, which we need to give a name. In this case, we call this property projects. Now we have a reference from project to user and vice versa. This way we can design all data, so we can use this data in our factory, the process of our application, later.